What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the of Isles Talk here on social media. My name is Paul Kreischer. I'm your host once again this evening. At some point, I'm going to get Gary Harding to do this sometime this year. Maybe give me a break, but this is going to be a fun-filled episode tonight. Hope you guys are ready for this one. It is a rant. Very much so. Not a lot of yelling. There doesn't need to be a lot of yelling, but we're going to get into why the Islanders were picked horribly down below in the lower standings to begin the season, and why everyone is praising only the coaches for the way the Islanders have been playing. I have a problem with that, and we're going to talk about that tonight. And because it's not just the coaching, it's not. These players have had success stories long before Barry Trotz got here. So we're gonna get into that. So what's up, guys? How are you? Like I do with every show in the beginning, we're gonna go over the standings real quick. Again, nothing much has changed in terms of the standings. The Isles are in second place, essentially. And for those of you brand new just joining me, welcome. I always do the standings differently. I do the standings by the point percentage or the prorated pace. I've been doing that for years. It honestly reduces the amount of stress on me, especially being an Islanders fan. Is it is possible to actually reduce your stress? It is possible. That's what I do in terms of the standings. Yeah, Maureen, we'll get into that in a minute. But welcome, Maureen. Yeah, the Isles are in second place in the division. The Capitals are on fire. Basically, right now, guys, the Caps are in first place just by half a point, pretty much. They're on pace for 129. The Islanders at 128. The Flyers at 106. I've said this from the beginning of the season, just like I did with Carolina last year. I don't trust the Flyers. I don't. The fact that they're 10-5-2 right now. That's too good of a record. I don't like that. I'm not thrilled with that record at all. So beware of the Flyers momentarily, guys. Pittsburgh Penguins on pace for 101. The Carolina Hurricanes are at 96. The Rangers are at 87. The Columbus Blue Jackets are at 72. And the Devils have actually pulled themselves out of oblivion. They're actually on pace for 72 points. And to be quite honest with you, they needed that. Now, for fun, I have already eliminated the Devils from playoff contention. For those of you who have been following for a while, any team who starts the first 10 games of the season with 8 or fewer points, they usually miss the playoffs. That's been going on now since the beginning of the salary cap era. So I personally had the Devils out. If you're a Devils fan, I'm sorry. Not really. But the Devils are in there. They're holding their own. It's good to see. How long that will last, I don't know. There's a lot of talk going around with the Devils. We'll get into that a little bit later if we can. And then you have a very congested Atlantic Division. You're looking at the Bruins on pace for 121 points. The Habs on pace for 101. The Panthers also on pace for 101. The Tampa Bay Lightning on pace for 98. They're now starting to play a few more games. Watch out for them. I see them moving up in the standings. They've only played 15 games. That's absurd. Okay, them and the Rangers, they've only played 15 games. I expect Tampa to move up in the standings as well. The Leafs, they're on pace for 95 points. And the Sabres are on pace for 96, and that's my fault. I got to move the Sabres up one spot. I got to switch the Sabres and the Leafs there for a moment because I don't think the Leafs are going to beat the Islanders tomorrow. Having said that, the Senators, believe it or not, are in 7th place on pace for 63, and the Wings are on pace for 56. For those of you who followed IslesTalk.com and my Eastern Conference predictions, I basically had the Sens and Wings down in the bottom. That's common knowledge among everyone else. That's just the way it's going to go. Oh, stop. Anyway, Moving on to the West, the St. Louis Blues looking at 123 points. I'm going to go strictly through the conference here. The Edmonton Oilers still holding strong at 112. The Avs at 106. The Predators at 101. Arizona, look out, Arizona. I'm rooting for you. Arizona, 100 points. The Canucks have dipped down a little bit, 96 points pace. Look out, Jets. I said this before. The Jets, if they find any kind of structure in their defense, they're going to come back. They're now in a playoff hunt here for 96 points, and the Flames are doing their Flames thing, 94 points, steady as they go. Vegas right now is in a little bit of a slump. They're on pace for 91. I'm not worried about them, though. The Ducks are coming off the good first 10 to 15 game of the season. They're on pace for 87. I see them dipping a little bit. And then you've got the Stars at 82, the Hawks at 77, the Sharks at 68. Didn't see that one coming. The Wild at 63 and the Kings at 53. And just to make things worse, in Kings land there, I just found out Ilya Kovalchuk is not playing from here on out. He's allowed to practice with the team, but he's not going to be playing. So I don't think it gets any worse for Ilya Kovalchuk at this point. So that's the point pace total, guys. Now, again, is there a difference between 129 points and 106? Not really. Not by like games 16, 17, 18. However, you are now basically a quarter of the season through. The significance moves up. Definitely there's a tighter race if they're like 106 and 101 point pace. That's definitely on a closer knit as the season goes on. 129 and 101, yeah, you still have a shot. You know, it's still early in the season, but the further we get into the season, that point pace differential, that's a big thing, guys. And that's why teams like the Senators, the Wings, they're already in trouble. The Devils, they're fairly close to getting in trouble there. The Columbus Blue Jackets could be joining them in the bottom 4 teams right now. Okay, right now the Tampa Bay Lightning have 98 points, are on pace for 98 points, excuse me, and the Columbus Blue Jackets, they're on pace for 72. Guys, that's a 26-point pace difference, okay, prorated. I can tell you right now, that's a bit of a stretch for any team to come back on. And you don't want to eliminate teams this early in the season, especially the season ticket holders. But the emphasis is Columbus needs to pull off a few wins if they want to stay alive in this one. Let's move over real quick to the Western Conference. When I'm looking at the Western Conference real quick, I'm looking to see if the Stars can come back at some point. I don't have them making the playoffs at this point because of what I had said before in the previous statement in the first 10 games. But it's looking like a 9-team race. I'm kind of hoping the Ducks can make a game or a season out of it. I'd like to see that. But I'm looking at 1 through 9 right now, and it's fairly close. It's going to stay close. The Avalanche have some injuries. Can the Oilers maintain doing what they're doing? The Predators continue to do what they're doing. Arizona, I'm rooting for you. Canucks, I like what they're doing. I don't know if they can hold on. The Jets, I don't want to say the Jets scare me, to be honest with you, but the Jets are, because they're in the Western Conference, I'm going to say that the Jets intrigue me because they were supposed to like drop off the face of the earth here without the lack of defense, and here they are holding up. And I have compared the Jets to the Toronto Maple Leafs of the Central Division. Lots of offense, shaky defense, and the goaltending's pretty good. Or at least the starting goaltending's been pretty good. So beware for the Jets. I think the Jets might make a trade earlier on during the season. I'd like to see what the Jets do from here on out. Koivula means nothing right now. Off topic real quick. I'll get into the kids a little later on. It means absolutely nothing to me. It doesn't matter. The kids have a job. The kids have a job to do, and that is to just play the system. If you play the system, you do well. Great. Thanks for coming. We're all healed up. Guess where you're going? Back down to Bridgeport. That's how it's supposed to run. That's it. I don't care if Quavilla plays or not. He's doing very well with Oliver Wallstrom down in Bridgeport right now. Me personally, I'd rather see Quavilla down in the minors, marinating for as long as possible. And I'm going to get into why the kids should be playing down in Bridgeport more often than everyone else. So, Sid the Kid is out, lower body injury. They haven't specified yet how long he's out for. So, all right. Let's get into this, guys, real quick. This is called a new section. I used to call it like a gripe section, but I'm now going to go Isles rant. This is a rant here. Okay. And it starts with last season. John Tavares left, and we're not going to get into that, but he left, and a lot of teams, a lot of people in the media, everyone, including fans, they all had the Islanders in last place, sixth place, whatever it was, not making the playoffs, so on and so forth. I was like, okay, I can understand that. That's fine. I would not have had the Islanders that low, and I didn't put the Islanders that low. I had them, I believe, at a 92 to 97 point pace last year. Only because we really didn't know. We really didn't know, but we didn't. I certainly didn't expect them to be like last place. Like when you hit last place, guys, you're like in the 60s, 70s, maybe even the low 80s, and the Islanders just weren't that team. Lo and behold, fast forward to the end of the season, and the Islanders just shock everybody, including me. You know, no one was expecting 103 points. No one was expecting the system to perform as well as it did. And a lot of the credit, and rightfully so that year, went to Barry Trotz. It also went to Robin Leonard. It also went to Thomas Greiss. Goaltending and defense, that's where everything was at. But this year, because of the Rangers and the Devils doing well at the lottery, and they did do well at the lottery, and the Rangers winning on Panarin, and the Devils getting PK Subban and Wayne Simmons, and the Isles not really doing anything. A lot of people had the Islanders not making the playoffs again. They're just going to regress. Okay? That's been bothering me since like the beginning of the season. Why are they going to be, excuse me for a moment, why are they down in last place again? Okay. Barry Trotz has never been in last place after having a surprising season, after a really good season. And I think it's time to start acknowledging the players. And I think it's time to acknowledge the team as a whole here. Okay. And I'm going to go down the line here. First off with the goaltending. Let's start off with the strength here. Okay. Yes, Robin Leonard left. But Semyon Varlamov is a former Vezina Trophy finalist. He was talented and he was successful before Barry Trotz. Okay. Thomas Greiss. All you Islander fans, the moment I say Thomas Greiss, you go back to 2016 when he and John Tavares basically single-handedly took the Islanders to the second round of the playoffs for the first time in 23 years. If you guys want to give more credit to Greiss than you do JT, that's fine. But Greiss has the talent before Barry Trotz. Okay? That's the goaltending. You have a former Vezina Trophy winner, and you have someone who's already gotten you past the first round of the playoffs. There's talent there in the goaltending. In terms of the defense, Scott Mayfield, Ryan Pulock, these guys were in the playoffs before Barry Trotz. If you don't have the talent, you're not going to be on the teams to make the playoffs or even to play in the playoffs. Mayfield, Pulock, they have it. They've been there, done that. Nick Leddy, Johnny Boychuk. They were winning Stanley Cups before Barry Trotz. They even battled each other for a Stanley Cup. Chicago against Boston. They're Stanley Cup winners, guys, before Barry Trotz. And I know many of you had Mayfield as a seventh defenseman, which at the time was understandably so, but Mayfield is now thriving in a much tougher system than he's ever played in. And he's not going anywhere. He's a top four pairing. He's in the top four defensemen on the scene with Devon Toews. We'll get into that in a minute. Okay? So we've already had 4 out of the 6 defensemen who have already had playoff experience in with Barry Trotz. Okay? Now let's look at the offense. Anders Lee, and for those of you who don't remember, Anders Lee is a former Calder Trophy nominee. He was a Rookie of the Year nominee. He was in the finals. Didn't get it. This guy is an average, he's averaging almost 30 goals a year. 30 goals. That's talent. Jordan Eberle's an all-star from the 11-12 season. You guys remember that? Eberle's an all-star. How many 65-point seasons has he had, or 60 plus? At least 3, to my knowledge. Granted, Jordan Eberle got selected into the All-Star game because of injuries. That's fine. But guess what? He still went. Okay? Andrew Ladd. Andrew Ladd, 2-time Stanley Cup winner. There is talent there, we're hoping. Okay? We're hoping. You know why I'm laughing. We don't have to go any farther. We don't have to go any further than that. Okay? Andrew Ladd's a 2-time cup winner. If he's healthy for the entire season, it's going to be a joy. Matthew Barzal, Rookie of the Year before Barry Trotz. 80-point season before Barry Trotz. There's talent there. Josh Bailey. If any of you were to tell me that Josh Bailey was going to score 70 points in one season, I would have called you a liar. No one thought that. He did it without Barry Trotz. Okay? Now, didn't we have the best fourth line in hockey before Barry Trotz? Yeah. Do we still have the best fourth line in hockey with Barry Trotz? Yeah. Okay. Guys, there's enough talent on this team to make the playoffs almost every year. There's enough depth on this team to make the playoffs for the next several years. Okay? What Barry Trotz has done, though, I'm going to be honest. I think if there was another experienced coach, Quinville, Vigneault, someone with a little more structure, I think the Islanders would still be doing better than 6th, 7th, or 8th in our division. We just happen to get arguably the best coach in the NHL right now. But what he was able to do, what Barry Trotz has been able to do, is take all of the talents together and put a system in place that works for everyone. Now, here's another form of talent, guys. Okay? It takes talent to basically, and I'm going to use the Star Wars reference here, to unlearn what you have learned, to trust in your coach, and to play his system. That takes talent, a lot of humility, probably a lot of arguing a little bit here and there, but it takes talent to change and evolve your game for the overall team success. And a lot of people don't understand that. Look at Alex Ovechkin. The moment Alex Ovechkin turned into a two-way forward, the Capitals went to the Cup. For all you Yankee fans out there, was Mariano Rivera a relief pitcher his entire career, or when he first started out? When he first started out. No, he was a starter. What did he do? What did he do? He ended up changing to a relief pitcher. He evolved. He helped the team win how many championships? I'm a Mets fan. I don't really want to know anymore. You guys get the point. Okay? Look at Tom Glavine. Look at Maddox. Look at any other player that has evolved his game. There are basketball players. Vince Carter. Vince Carter could do point guard. He could do forward. He used to play center every once in a while when he was on the Nets, when the Nets were that injured. It's all about evolving their own games. We'll get into that later, guys. The players have evolved and they've grown their own games to the point where it is now a total team concept. Fantasy players, people who are in the fantasy leagues, they absolutely hate the Islanders. They hate them because they don't know who's going to score, and yet the team is always winning. Bottom line, right? It's the team concept. Everyone has bought into it, but it takes talent and the ability to change your game for the team. It's literally the logo, the crest on the front, not the name on the back. I agree. All the coaches, I'm not taking anything away from the coaches, but it's the players who are putting themselves, and they're making themselves accountable first, and that also takes talent. There's a lot of talent on this team that really has not been recognized. Should have been recognized a long time ago, which is why, in my opinion, a lot of people keep getting the Islanders wrong at the beginning of the season. Okay, now, granted, hold on for 1 second. I love Canada, by the way. It's a past like this that continue to plague Islanders, their fans, and whatnot. Because a lot of the broadcasters right now were players during this era. Okay? By the book, shameless plug. You'll understand. Okay? Our history does not help us. The two arena situation does not help us. We're going to get over those humps very soon, especially the two arena deal, much sooner than most people think, probably. Okay, let me tell you guys how good the Islanders are right now, and this is going to be really telling. And I got inspiration for this from SiriusXM, Boomer and Han, about a week or so ago. The 2019 calendar year, basically from January 1st till about Sunday morning, Okay, I haven't had time to do the standings on this just last couple of days because I've been working. But I want you guys to take a look, or take a listen to the 2019 calendar standings. And you tell me whether or not, leave your comments below, whether you feel the Islanders are Stanley Cup contenders or not with what you have. Okay? The St. Louis Blues are 42-13-8. Prorate that over a full season, that's 120 points. Now, this does not count the playoffs, mind you. That's the St. Louis Blues. The Boston Bruins are 39-13-7. Prorate that, that's 118. The Tampa Bay Lightning, 39-14-4, also 118 points. The Carolina Hurricanes are the fourth best team in 2019 with a record of 38-15-1. Prorate that, that's 117 points. And lo and behold, the New York Islanders, 39-17-8. Prorate that over 108-point pace. 108-point pace. Now, folks, I'm talking 82, 92 games, 98 games, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, 98 games, guys. If we were to take the full season, all of last season and into right now, the Islanders are fourth. The Islanders are fourth in the National Hockey League with a record of 60-30-8. The New York Islanders are on the verge of playing 100 games, and they've only lost 30. 30. You can tell me all you want that coaching has done it, and I'm not going to lie, but you know what? It's time to give the players more credit than they are getting. It takes a coach to implement a system, but it takes players and it takes talent to make the system work. You want to know why there hasn't been a trade since Matt Martin? That's pretty much why. You've got the fourth best record right now. They haven't needed to. And you guys were just listening to me before on the standings. The Rangers aren't even close right now. The Devils are even further away. We've brought in talent that fits the system. We've had the talent. The system was a little messed up. And I have always said from day one, Barry Trotz's system is an upgraded version to Jack Capuano's. Pure and simple. Which is why it's taking some of these other players a little bit longer to finally, shall we say, come out of their shell. And now we're starting to realize their full potential, but they're doing it. Devon Tays, Ryan Pulock, Adam Pelech. Did you guys see them as a top pairing defenseman anywhere? No. They're doing it now. They're putting in the effort. Believe it or not, I had Pelech and I had all three of them as top four defensemen. I don't know if they were going to be in the top pairing, but it doesn't matter. They fit the system. And that's why I keep telling people when it comes down to the trade deadline, when it comes to making player personnel or moving the kids, it doesn't matter anymore because the talent is there from the players that are currently on this squad. That all the kids have to do is follow suit, play the system, which is sometimes harder for people. Now, getting back to that, the Islanders being the 5th best team in the calendar year so far. If you honestly believe that the Islanders are a top or a Stanley Cup contending team, you're right. But what are they missing? They are missing something, believe it or not. The difference between the Blues, the Lightning, the Bruins, the Capitals, okay, the Blues are still scoring some more, but the Blues over the last year and 3 months are averaging a little bit more than 3 goals a game. The Washington Capitals are fairly close to 3.5 goals per game. The Boston Bruins are up 3.2 goals a game. And Tampa Bay is still ridiculous. That's like 3.81. Okay. The Islanders are at 2.77. Now that number's going up, especially with this year. And we haven't had, again, as I have said, we don't have Andrew Ladd for a full season. We haven't had Jordan Eberle for a full season. I can see that 2.77 goals for average going up. Maybe into the low eights. I'm sorry, the low 2.8s. Okay. Is that enough? I don't think so. I don't think so, guys. Will it be enough to get us into the playoffs? Of course. Second round, probably. Conference finals, Stanley Cup. This is where the Islanders may make a move for a trade if they decide to go that route. Okay, which I'm sure Lou is going to. Who are they going to trade for? I only have one on my wish list. For those of you who have been following, you know who I want. I'm not going to say him now because I don't want to jinx it. God forbid the Islanders actually watch this. I don't want to jinx it. For those of you who followed the Devils in the 90s, you know that if it came out in the media, Lou just nixed it. Done. I don't want to say it. I don't want to say that player's name. And here's another thing. I'm hoping Lou doesn't wait until just the trade deadline. I'm hoping he doesn't wait. I'm hoping he does this trade, if he does it at all, mid to late January. Get the player in as soon as possible. Let him learn the system. Let him figure everything out, because then come the playoff time, we're running full steam ahead. We're running full steam ahead. Yes, don't say it. Don't say it. For those of you who know me, I've been saying about this player now at least for like a year and a half. I won't say it. Please don't say it. That's just going to jinx it. Shush. Shush. Here's the other thing, guys. We don't need to make a trade right now. We don't need to make a trade. We need to watch whoever's still here, if they still have a future with the Islanders. We need to make sure that the health of the veterans is still good, because then we're going to need that depth anyway. There's no need to make a trade unless it's absolutely necessary, or if the trade presents itself and Lou is like, yes, let's make this deal. Because I'll tell you right now, I don't think he's making phone calls. He doesn't have to. Okay? The Islanders have the 5th best record in the calendar year right now. Do they have to do anything? No. But when you're going for a Stanley Cup, it's a different beast, and it's a different calendar year. From here on out, folks, when you're making those early season predictions, you got to put the Islanders somewhere in the top 4 from now on, maybe even the top 3 for a very long time. Okay? It's on the players. It's not just on the coach. It's on the players as well. There's enough talent here. There was enough talent in 2016 to get them into the second round. There was enough talent this past year, younger talent, to get them into the second round last year. This team could go further with a proper move, but the team doesn't have to do it now. And it's time to start realizing that the Islanders are, in fact, for real. Okay? No more of the 90s. No more of this. Although the book is very good. Don't worry. No, not this specifically. The 90s. They're done and over with. It's time to change your mindset. And I hate using the Mets term, you got to believe. But it's time to believe. You have something to believe in. And it's not just Barry Trotz. It's just not Pierre Greco. It's not just Mitch Korn. It's not just Shane Lambert. It's you can believe in Anders Lee. You can believe in Matt Barzal. You can believe in Josh Bailey. You can believe in Ryan Pulock. You can believe in Johnny Boychuk while he's still here. You can believe in Grice. You can believe in Varlamov and any other younger player who comes up because they will be ready. They have the talent to do it. This team is for real. The numbers have shown it. They're horrible for fantasy players. We get that. But you know what? When you're winning as a team and you don't know who's going to score for your team, but they do it anyway, that makes them dangerous. It makes them completely dangerous and unpredictable. You know what they're going to do to you. You just don't know how. That's the key for Barry Trotz. He's going to beat you. You just don't know how. What the players have done is that they've taken their talents, they've improved on it, and now they're just doing their thing with the Trotz system, and they're making Barry Trotz look really, really good. But to say that it's all on Barry Trotz and the coaching staff, no. No, it's not fair anymore. It's not fair anymore. Time to change that. Now, we will get respect, Thomas. We'll get respect when we win the cup. There will certainly be much more respect when we hit Belmont. And I'm not going to lie here. I think if there's a full season, I'm pretty sure there's going to be a full season at Nassau Coliseum next year. And in the playoffs this year, the Islanders will be respected from here on. It's time for the fans to pay the respect first. No more putting them fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth place. Those days are over. They're done and over with. This team is legit. They're ready now. Granted, there probably needs to be a move, maybe two, to be made, but we're not going. The Islanders are not going down anytime soon. They're just not. There's too much in the statistics right now. There's too much in the standings. And there's too much in that locker room for them to go down. There's too much talent in that locker room for them to even sniff last place. Yeah, Garth drafted very well after all. Yes, Brian. Yes, Tommy. I will say this. I was a fan of Garth Snow's drafting. I was, for the most part. He had a couple of hiccups, granted, but overall his drafting was still very good. Player development was always been my biggest problem with this organization, and specifically rushing the players. Like, for example, player development. I would much rather have Michael Dal Cole playing with Casey Zizekas and Cal Clutterbuck in this system than Michael Dal Cole playing with Brian Ralston and, I knew I was going to forget his name. Brian Ralston, and help me out, guys, in Jack Capuano's system. Brian Ralston, who was the other guy? I can't believe I forgot this. It wasn't John Sim. Brian Ralston and someone else was on that line with Nito Niederreiter. But you get my point. I'd rather have Michael Del Cole developing with Cizikas and Clutterbuck than what we used to have last year, a couple of years ago. Yes, especially Barzal. Okay. That's it. That's my rant. The Islanders are for real, but it's not just on the coaching staff. It's on the players as well. There is enough talent here to do a lot of damage, not just this year, but for the next couple years. And a couple, I mean by 5 at least. So at this point, I'll take your questions, comments, concerns in the Facebook chat. For those of you on YouTube later on, don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube. Leave your questions in the comment section down there, and I will personally answer them whenever, as soon as I can. So for those of you on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will think, I will answer those questions on YouTube as soon as I can. Do I think Thompson needs to go in Bridgeport? No, I don't. From what I've been hearing and from what I've been seeing, some of these younger players are really struggling to learn the new system. And I think you can take that theme from Barry Trotz on Oliver Wahlstrom. They've got all the talent, but they don't know how to play the game. Or he doesn't know how to play the game. That was his quote to Oliver Wahlstrom. I was paraphrasing that, but I think the kids are learning to play the game down there, and I think that's what you're starting to see. I think that's just a little bit of the struggle. Now, not to knock the rest of that division is very good. Hartford, Providence, they're all doing very well. I knew Providence was going to be a very good team this year. As we get healthy, does Dal Cole become an extra forward? I'm going to say yes. I think Dal Cole is going to become the extra forward, but I think they're also going to give maintenance days to Andrew Ladd. He's had a lot of injuries over the last year or so. So could I see Ladd and Dal Cole possibly splitting time? Maybe. Maybe Ladd go 3 games and then say Dal Cole go 2, maybe. Like on a back-to-back, play Dal Cole or something else like that. But, yeah, I think Dal Cole and Ross Johnson become the extra forwards at some point. And then they'll have to make a move at some point if Tommy Kuhnhackl recovers in time from his injury. What top 6 forward has he developed in his time here? Well, he was around for Anders Lee, Brock Nelson. Let's see, who else is left? Ryan Strome was there briefly as well. Cizikas, I think he was back there for that long too. Because you got to remember, not only was he an assistant coach for Bridgeport, he was a head coach first time. He was an assistant for the Islanders, and then he went back to head coaching. So, yeah, he's had almost all these guys. Anyone that's left, he's had them, and especially on defense. Yeah, you're not going to have one player at all badmouth Thompson. And there's a reason. Here's another thing. Lou Lamoriello kept him. Excuse me. Lou Lamoriello kept him. And if you remember, Bridgeport was severely understaffed, and that they were doing an excellent job with not a lot of resources. So the fact that Lou Lamoriello was keeping Thompson around says a lot. So a lot of young kids, especially coming out of college, they're just trying to get themselves used to the system. A couple of young kids in here, they're learning the game. They've got to learn the game. So again, I don't have a problem with the kids coming up if there are injuries, because they're depth players. They're talent, but they got to learn the game. But if they come up because of injuries, I don't have a problem with it. That's fine. That's what they're here for. That's their role. They're depth players. A man names Tavares. What do you mean by that? Any updates on Belmont? Yeah, there's dirt in the ground. I can't believe people actually collected dirt. Sorry, that's just I don't know. Maybe it's like Yankee Stadium going, collecting the dirt from Yankee Stadium. Yay, I got a jar of dirt, but that's just me. Anyway, Yeah. What about John Tavares? There's honestly, guys. I hear knowledgeable Leaf fans there are out there. I've talked to a couple of them. I've been close friends with them now for several years, and a lot of them are thinking that this could be their last year at a Stanley Cup. Okay, they don't like the way Buffalo is progressing. They don't like how Florida's just come out of nowhere. We're not really coming out of nowhere, but now they've got all of their act together, uh, and they still have Tampa Bay for the next couple of seasons. And not gonna lie, for the Leaf fans that follow hockey outside of Toronto, they're very nervous with the Islanders. They know that if the Toronto Maple Leafs somehow get out of the Atlantic Division in the playoffs, they're going to have to contend with the Islanders at some point, and I don't think they can do it. That's a long road. Think about it. If you're a Leafs fan, you got to go through Tampa, the Panthers, possibly the Habs. Look out for the Habs and the Bruins. And if you make it out alive, you still got to go through a team like the Capitals, the Hurricanes, if they can get back in there, and the Islanders. It's tough to do, guys. So my Leaf fans, they're very nervous because they don't like the changes. By the way, Montreal, the calendar year, 32, 21, and 6. I forgot to mention them. They're on pace for 97. Watch out for Montreal around the trade deadline. Sneaky little Montreal, just doing their own little thing. I don't like that. Sorokin is coming over. Sorokin's coming over, and for next season, Sorokin's going to play backup with Varlamov. And if Sorokin does really well, you're going to see a 40-40 split again. That's just the way it works. And for those of you who are worried about Greiss leaving and Sorokin coming in, I'm going to see if I can find my original post on Sorokin. He still reminds me of Thomas Greiss. Still does. He's a younger version to Thomas Greiss. That's the style I have always seen him play in. He's an absolute mood killer. He holds on to the puck. He just stops any kind of momentum, which is exactly what this system is designed for. I am not worried if Sorokin comes in and replaces Thomas Greiss. I'm just not. How much is Greiser going to get on the free agent market? Well, he'll probably get paid the highest backup goaltender in the league. Will this be the last year in a House of Rust? No, as a matter of fact, the impression I'm getting, and again, there's nothing official on this. No one is saying anything. So, if anything, you've heard it from here first. The impression that I'm getting is that the final Barclays game, regular season game, I don't know when that is, but the final regular season Barclays game will be it. No playoffs in Barclays. Everything will be at the Coliseum for the second half. That includes the first, second, conference finals and Stanley Cup finals. Everything will be at the Coliseum, and every single game next season will also be at Nassau Coliseum. There's nothing confirmed on that. That's the impression I've been given. I have nothing concrete to give you. I'm going to let the Islanders do that themselves, if or when that ever does happen. I don't think it's an Islander thing. I think it's more on the NHL. But the impression that I've been given is that once that last regular season game at Barclays has been played, Barclays will be washing their hands completely from the New York Islanders, and every single game, including the playoffs, will be played at Nassau Coliseum. March versus Carolina. Okay. That's it. To my knowledge, as of right now, the impression that I've been given is that in that March game against Carolina, that will be it for Barclays. Everything else will be at the Coliseum. We'll see what happens. Oh, Canada. Soderstrom and Skarek, two really good young goalies. Not gonna lie. Um, if Sorokin really does hold up and he's like the Thomas Greiss that I've been advertising, I wouldn't be shocked if one of those two goalies were traded. For those of you that know me, as soon as I'm done off this chat, they're going to call me up and say, "What the hell do you know?" Well, okay. Both good goalies. Give them time to develop first. Yes, Skarek is again. Vasilevsky to me is the ultimate style comparison that I have for Skarek. Skarek could be that good. Kind of makes you wonder if he'd be any kind of trade bait to any other team. Maybe. I don't know. Playing basketball at center make a difference to the quality of the ice. Yeah, because usually the quality of the ice, it gets worse on the ends, or especially around the boards, because you're digging up the puck. Remember, you're that's right. You're digging up in the corners. But if we're talking about the New York Nets, the Brooklyn Nets, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that if the Nets continue to make the playoffs, they're not going to let the Islanders anywhere near Barclays. That's just not going to happen. Gibson coming back? Great question. I don't know. That'll depend on you. Lou, excuse me. That'll all depend on Lou. And the Calgary Flames don't suck, despite what some people may say. But any other questions, comments, concerns, guys? Thank you for coming on. Greatly appreciate it. Next week, I don't know yet. Oh, here's the other thing. A completely different subject. I was going to go back in the standings. The Islanders have a 12-game winless streak. 12-game winning streak. Point streak. There we go. I finally got it. When doing the standings from a percentage standpoint, real quick, when you're in the first half of the season, it's the amount of losses that actually determine whether or not you're going to make the playoffs or not. So the more losses you have, the less of a chance you have at making the playoffs. So even though the Islanders don't have their winning streak going, as long as they continue to not lose in regulation for right now, they're in great shape. Now, when it comes to the second half, wins do matter because you need that. There's like a little bit of a force between, 10th, 9th, 8th, and 7th. Those 7th and 8th place teams, they need to win more games in order to start pulling away from the bottom two teams. So in the second half, you really want to win more of those games than it is an unbeaten streak. The more wins you have, the better. Obviously, the less losses. I know it sounds like a Captain Obvious thing, but it really does make a big difference in the first half, because if you start losing, like let's say for example, the Minnesota Wild are now 4 games under the NHL 500, and the Flames are now 3 games over the NHL 500. They got to win at least 7 in a row if they're even going to come close to tying the Calgary Flames. Do we see the Minnesota Wild winning, 7 in a row? No. So, again, as long as the Islanders continue to rack up points every game and they don't lose a lot in regulation, they'll be fine. Thoughts about tomorrow? I pity John Tavares. I pity him. The reason why I say that is because I think he made a great personal decision in the end. He's home. His family's happy. He's happy. He's happy because his family's happy, and I'm okay with that. But on the flip side, he made the absolute worst hockey decision in his life. Um, he's the Don Mattingly right now of the NHL. I don't think he's ever going to win a cup. I don't think so. Do Islander fans have a right to boo him? Absolutely. Um, if the Islanders can extend their chant to "We still don't need you," go ahead and do it. Do I think he deserves it? Yeah, yeah. Believe me, for those of you who know, there's always two sides to everything here. As far as I'm concerned, the Islanders messed that up as well. But the way it was handled, especially on Tavares' part towards the fans have every right to be as mad as they want for as long as they want. Flames are not eliminated. Knock it off. Coming in for any of the Ranger games at the barn? I don't know. It's been a long time since I've done a Ranger Islander game. Boo him, we shall. That's fine. But no, those are my thoughts on Tavares. It is what it is. Great personal decision, probably the worst hockey decision he's ever made. Because I'm not going to lie, guys. If Tavares was on this team last year, if the Islanders actually signed him like they were supposed to, and they signed it to that contract, I think the Islanders are in at least the Eastern Conference Finals last year. Maybe even a Stanley Cup Finals with Tavares. And there's nothing you guys are going to say to sway me. I don't think so. I think if John Tavares were on this team, the Islanders would right now still be going for a Stanley Cup run. But he's not. Not necessarily water under the bridge. But let's see what happens during this trade deadline. Let me rephrase that. Let's see what happens during the season and see if there's a player that we can pick up that not necessarily he doesn't have to be John Tavares, but maybe there's like that sexy pick that the Islander fans have been craving for, and someone Butch Goring trade to get this team up and over the hump here, maybe even to the Eastern Conference Finals, and possibly look to go for the Stanley Cup Finals. Let's see what happens during this season. So that's it, guys. I'm coming up on an hour. Thank you so much for coming on once again. As far as next week is going, I don't know if there's a game. I think there's no games on Wednesday. I might be able to do it on Wednesday. I'm now a softball clinic coach for a couple of family members here. So a little bit of family time for me. But in all honesty, if the Islanders continue to win, sit back, enjoy it, relax. We'll come back on some other time. If there's another topic you guys want me to cover, by all means, leave it in the comment section here or on YouTube. Send me go to Isles Talk, send me a direct message there. Ask if there's something you want me to cover. I'll be more than happy to do it. Guys, it's time to start praising the players as well. It's not just the coaches anymore. The players are here. They're here to stay. That's why Lou signed them to contract extensions. And honestly, it's time to start thinking Stanley Cup run. And I have not said that ever. As long as I've been a blogger for over 10 years now, been doing this show now for a year and a half, I have never said that. It's time. The Islanders are Stanley Cup contenders. Their time is now. And it's time to enjoy it, folks. Time to enjoy it. Run with it. So, having said that, let's go Islanders, and we'll see you sometime next week. I'll let you guys know. Have a good night.